Good day, Royals, and welcome back. Alright, tribe, let's level up. Today, I want to go over some things pertaining to investing as a business. Now, why would we want to treat investing as a business? Well, simply because it is a business first. Within my 7 years of being in the financial industry, something I can say that most people talk about is a strategy or some form of way to just instantaneously make money. And that is not how this industry works. One thing we have to be sure of is taking inventory of the investments that we take or the investment ideas that we have. And this is where this session comes in. Now, I want to go over some of the previous investments that I would have made, and hopefully this can give you some insight as to how I am structuring myself to be successful. All right, so let's move on to the first slide. Here we have a pair called EUR-NZD, and this was essentially a setup that I would have observed, and based on the method and system that I use, I was estimating for price to move to a third level. So we can see one level of rise here, we can see the second level of rise here, and this was potentially the third level of rise. So how did this investment play out? Let's go forward. Here we can see the progress of this particular investment, and it was executed. And after being executed, well, because this is a swing investment, what we have to do is just allow these investments to play out. So let's go to the next slide. Here we can see how this investment started to play out. So on the third level, we can see that on the 4-hour time frame, this was executed right around here. And of course, this was the outcome of this particular swing investment. So let's move forward to the next slide. And here we can see the progress of how this investment is running. Now, because of the fact that this is a swing investment, it just simply means that I personally do not have to sit down and pay attention to what this particular market is doing. So let's see how it looks on MT5, right? So in this case, this green dotted line here would be where the entry was, and it would have been executed around, I think it was right here. Was it? And this red dotted line would be my stop loss. And all that stop loss will do is, provided that my insights was off for this particular investment and the investment goes against me, meaning that it goes bearish, well, it just simply means that I gain a lesson, most importantly, of how I can become more aware of what to do the next time something like this shows up. So moving on to the next slide. So what I would have done here for this particular investment would have just moved my stop loss to the entry. And this just simply means that this particular investment is currently running at risk-free. So this is some of the things we have to do as investors to become consistently successful. All right, it is not just about a strategy, but it's about having a structured business plan so that we can analyze why are we failing in some particular areas with regards to investing, and why are we succeeding in some particular areas with regards to investing. And all we are doing with our inventory is seeking what are the best opportunities for us to look out for. All right, so this is the current outcome of this particular investment, and later on we will go to TradingView to see how the progress is going with this particular investment. So let's move on to the next slide. Here we have EUR-USD, and this was a particular investment that I would have just recently observed. So this is me just observing the charts and having a directional bias as bullish and looking to see what the market makers are printing before us. So ideally this was one of our entry signals, and after just placing the buy stop, well, this would be the outcome of this particular investment. So let's go to the next slide. Here, as the investment is progressing, I am finally starting to detail what I am actually seeing here. Of course, the directional bias, and this happens to be a multi-session type 1 formation, right? So this was one of the reasons or the entry criteria for me to look at the charts and use my awareness so that I can either get a lesson or a profitable one. So let's go to the next slide. And as you can see here, I started to structure out this investment as to what I was potentially expecting to happen. And as we can see here, price took off on this particular day. All right, so this turned out into a multi-session, right? W formation. And we can see a larger W with a smaller W formation here, right? The directional bias is still upwards. And this is where I was planning to exit this investment. Now, this would have started out as a day trade, but of course, it turned into an intraday trade. All right, price does not just move in a straight line, even though we can see many bullish candles right here. Price still does not move in a straight line. So we as investors have to understand that most investments would not play out in that one day or that one week. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. So here I'm giving notes as to what I'm observing and what I can potentially fine tune or what I need to adjust as time is playing out and this investment is working its way to our target profit. So this was a swing investment and this was an intraday investment. However, because of the structure of the market and what I was expecting to happen on this particular Friday, I decided to put my exit before it started to go any higher. I did not want to leave my investments with this high impact news event coming, so I made a target and I stuck with it. So let's see how this turned out. This was the outcome of the investment. As I would have mentioned, this was an intraday investment, meaning that it took more than one day to complete this particular investment. And as we can see here, this was the outcome. So here I had a potential idea as to where I could have let the investment run to. However, securing profits is also part of our game. So this was my target, but because of what I was observing and because NFP was supposed to be the next day, as I made a note here, I closed off this particular swing investment before NFP came. Of course, this just means that after these major impact news events happen, it just means that we just have to reassess what's going on with the charts to be able to gain more insight so that we can look out for the next opportunity around the corner. So what turned out to happen? Well, the next day, NFP came and it actually went to where I had an idea that price could have potentially gone to. And of course, it started to retrace afterwards. All right, so this is just a structure that I'm using to critique my own self, to help me improve. And we as investors, we are not only just looking for a strategy just to make money. Remember that once we understand the dynamics of the skill set, the money automatically comes, all right? But we have to master ourselves before we master our charts. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Here we can see in MT5, this was the buy stop that would have been executed. And this was my stop loss here. I believe the risk was somewhere around 20 pips. And I was aiming for roughly about 80 pips thereabouts. So let's see how it progressed. As we can see from the charts to now, the application where we can place our investments on our brokers. Here we can see that the trade or the investments played out really nicely. As you can see here, I would have had this investment that I wanted to hold for maybe several weeks. However, because of the structure and the timing of the markets and so forth, I decided to close both investments at the same time. Right? So you can see this is the target profits here, and I believe it turned out to be about 85 to 87 pips thereabouts. All right, so again, collecting inventory on our business allows us to see what it is we need to do in order for us to be consistently profitable.